Hello and welcome to a Reeve Rant. So today's video is about the value of promises. It's semi-scripted. I've got it written there, which I will refer to, but I'm not going to read it straight off. So, yeah. In today's society, promises don't mean shit. They don't mean much to many people at all, really, and apparently people don't realise that. Or at least, they mean something to me, and apparently people don't realise they mean more to me than it means to them. So, it is theoretically honour that holds value, like, in a person's word and their oath or promise. So, honour is, meh, as far as things go, but people don't really go for honour, and trust is lost. There was a feather. When someone breaks promise, trust is lost. There are many different types of promise, but yeah. This is why in fiction, particularly fantasy, quite often oathbreaker, the term has been thrown around as an insult or just something derogatory in general. Furthermore, everyone breaks promises. I've broken promises myself. The simplest one to go by is I promised my nan when I was 4 or 5-ish that I would never smoke, because she told me to, and I thought, well, you know what? My nan knows a lot. I will promise her this. It will make her happy. But I tried smoking. It's not for me. But besides that, I broke that promise. I don't think the value of promises for children is very high. I feel as though child promises are much less important than adult promises. The reasoning for this is children don't really know what's going on, what the meaning of what they say is. That's why kids get away with saying so much random stuff that's insensitive or just damn right offensive. But yeah, so your age, I suppose, would correlate to a degree of the value of your promises, but like other things such as general capability, it'll reach a point where it starts to decline again, because the elderly, well, no offense, but their brains kind of get a bit mushy, yeah, so they sometimes just don't realise what they're saying, or they grew up in a time that is no longer relevant, and so they can make promises that are no longer really possible. Like, oh yeah, sure, I'll get you this thing, and that thing doesn't exist anymore. Or I'll take you to this place, and that place got turned into a car park. So, yeah. Though many of these small promises, like the I'll take you to this place ones, are, they're not really very often promises. Most of the time they're just someone's word, which is very similar. There is definitely a connection between that and promises, but a promise is phrased as a promise. It's like, I promise to do this. So, yeah, they're rare, but when those ones are broken, it's rarely treated as anything more than, say, if someone was to say, yeah, I'll get the milk on the way home from work, and they get back from work and they're like, oh, I didn't get the milk, I'll just pop out and get it now. It would be treated the same as, yeah, I promise I'll grab the milk on the way back. Oh, sorry, I didn't. I'll go get it. That's that. But there's also bigger promises. Sort of promises that are grandiose. Most of which being severely emotional, but some of which including financial reasons. So, yes, I promise that I will pay you this amount for this. And then they don't, and you're screwed because you needed the money. Or, the emotional ones, I promise to not leave you, like a wedding vow, oath, signing document thing. The whole point of marriage is, it is a promise till death do us part, so to speak. So, yeah, those get broken all the time, because I believe it's more than half of all marriages end in divorce in this day and age. I haven't looked into it, but yeah. And similar promises they're the ones that hurt, either physically, emotionally, or a mixture of the two. And yes, people obviously take divorce seriously, but rarely are divorces entirely one-sided, I think. I've not really encountered any personally, but whatever. And and I feel as though there's usually a process to it where people go through stuff and they break down the reasons. They're like, I'm going to divorce you because you're an alcoholic with no job who slaps the kids. Then that's fair enough. You have justification in those sorts of circumstances, so the promise is sort of void at that point. There are certain ideas that a promise is held upon, and if those ideas fall apart, the promise falls apart, so promise is void. Just like when you're a kid, you grow up, promise is void. Just there's that. But in my experience, rarely do people hold most of those promises in that high of a regard, like the marriage one, obviously, but very often there's adults in a relationship that don't get married, that promise many things to each other, and then they just sort of stop. Many relationships fizzle out. That's just the thing that happens. But the promises never get addressed. And I feel as though that's an issue. I'm not entirely sure whether other people do or not. I haven't asked anyone. But I don't like leaving things unresolved, which is probably why I'm a philosopher. Trying to answer those impossible questions. Yay. But, oh well. I just don't see any remorse in people who break those promises. Even if it's, like, not like a relationship thing, and it's just straight up a broken promise. Like the finance thing. Like, cool, I will give you half of it up front, and then you give us the stuff, and then you get the rest of it upon delivery. Then you never get paid the rest after delivery. That broken promise. The people who break those promises show no remorse. Even if you knew them, no remorse. Even if you were good friends, no remorse. Why? Because they're dickheads? Maybe? No, I think it's just people don't really care about promises anymore. Though there are loopholes in promises. There's the one I mentioned earlier of if there is justification for breaking a promise, then the promise is invalidated, in my opinion. And yeah, so there's that one, and there is also, if you go by like what CGP Grey says, then you've got yourself a different person every so often. As you grow up, physically, your cells all change. Mentally, your mindset changes as you learn new stuff, forget old stuff, etc., etc. So you are a new person, kind of, in theory. That is definitely... That's definitely something to think about. Because if you didn't make the promise, then do you have to hold it? I would say no. But let me know what you think. Also, let me know what you think about the whole fact that I hate it having promises broken and breaking promises. One of the things that I regret the most in life is breaking one of those big promises. It wasn't even temporary. I didn't even intend to do it. It was I got blackmailed into doing it, and I still regret it. But yeah. So I'm gonna go. But I was just I was thinking about promises the other day, so I wrote this script, and I was wondering where on the channel could this fit. I don't have anything for it. So the closest thing is a Reeve Rant. Yet, I've skipped so much of that script, so much of it, because, like, there's bits where it's, like, if you find a promise you made, if you truly find a promise you made something horrific now, perhaps you're a different person to the one that made it. That was on the people change part. There's so much to that script, but there's no place for it on the channel, which upsets me. I need to find a place for that on the channel, of proper scripted videos, rather than me just ranting to a camera. And I can't stick it in the educational ones, because it's not educational. I need to do some more of those anyway, because I've only got that health one. Feel free to go watch it, by the way. Card. And, yeah. Before I go, I just want to point out how much I hate breaking promises. I tend to be asked to do a lot of things for my family. One of which is, can you put this back in the fridge? I get that quite a lot. I will usually say probably, or I will try, or we'll see, as my response. Why do I say that rather than yes? Because I don't know whether I can or not. If I get shot in the head on the way to the fridge, I'm probably not putting it back in the fridge. I can fall over and it could all spill out, and then I'm not putting it back in the fridge. Many things could happen, most of which are very unlikely, but I really hate breaking promises, so I just don't. Anyway, as I said, I'm going to go. I'll catch you cats on the flip-flop, and, yeah, don't forget to let me know what you thought of, what you think about promises and the value of them, because I think they should be valued much more than they are.